I have been brewing my own kombucha at home for years now. I am going to show you the tips and tricks that I've learned to make the best kombucha in the first ferment. So I'm going to start off here with a gallon of distilled water. You can use tap water if you're on a well, and you can use filtered water. You don't want to use city water because that has chlorine and fluoride in it, and those are antibacterial types of things, and you're growing some bacteria here, so you don't want to use chlorinated water. What I'm going to do now is boil my water. When my water comes to a rapid boil, I'm going to turn it off. Then I'm going to add a cup of sugar and my tea bags. I like to use organic ingredients in my kombucha. Now, I learned how to make kombucha from YouTube videos, and you'll see people from one extreme to the other. And there's a lot of people that will say it doesn't matter what type of sugar you use because the sugar is only food for the bacteria and yeast. But I disagree, because regular white table sugar is made with genetically modified sugar beets, and I don't want any of that in my kombucha. I like to use this green tea from Whole Foods. It comes in a little package with 10 tea bags, and they do not come in paper, and they do not have strings, so I can take them right out of this package and put them right in my water. If your tea bag busts, it's not a big deal. Just put a paper towel in a strainer and then pour your tea over the paper towel, and then you can strain out all of your tea leaves. I also use organic sugar from Whole Foods. Now, if I can't get it from Whole Foods, we have organic sugar right at Walmart. Of course, you can get it a whole lot cheaper from Whole Foods. I have found that leaving the tea bags in the water overnight produces a full-bodied flavor. Now, I'm going to use a little more sugar than a lot of the people on YouTube will recommend, and I'm going to use more tea bags than a lot of people recommend. But I like a full-bodied flavor. I don't like a light, weak kombucha. Our water has come to a boil. I am going to put in a little bit more than a cup, about a heaping cup of sugar. I'm going to turn my burner off, and I'm going to stir it, because if you don't stir it, sometimes it'll form a layer on the bottom. I have 14 tea bags, which is not the usual recipe. You won't hear anybody else probably saying that they put 14 green tea bags in their tea, but I have found that this produces the most flavorful tea. So my sugar's already dissolved. I'm going to stick my tea bags in, and I am going to cover my pot. Then this will be ready when it is room temperature. You want to keep everything at room temperature. I have a pot here that's already cooled to room temperature that I brewed last night. So what I'm going to do is I am going to use my scooper. And I did not mention, but you only want to brew kombucha in stainless steel pots. This is a health drink, so you don't want to add a bunch of toxins in your drink before you even put it in your body. You definitely don't want to use a Teflon coated pot. You can use glass pots, but I don't know that anybody even uses glass pots anymore. So I'm gonna squeeze my tea bags. So I'm sure this tea is very bitter right now, but it will never come through in the final product. This will be tremendously reduced in sugar and caffeine because the probiotics use that as food. So the more sugar and the more caffeine your initial brew has, the more flavor your kombucha will have in the end. Now for the messy part, I'm gonna take my cooled sweet tea, and I am going to pour it into this gallon glass container. You want to be careful not to fill it too far up. When you fill it too far up, see, I still have to add my cup of green tea, plain green tea kombucha for a starter. I'll go ahead and do that. If I was going to use a SCOBY that filled this whole top, then I would risk, if I didn't check my kombucha every day, of it going bad. Now, I've been brewing my own kombucha for 4 years, and I've only had one batch go bad. And I brew kombucha every week to a week and a half. It is not as sensitive as people make it out to be. But what happened at that time was, when it starts to ferment, when the probiotic cultures eat the sugar, they expel CO2, which carbonates it. Well, if you've filled this up too much and your SCOBY seals off the top and no air can escape, it will actually push that SCOBY out of the liquid. And when that's separated and not refrigerated, your brew will go bad. Now we need to cover the top. We need to use something that will let the gases escape and keep the fruit flies out. So I like to use these jumbo coffee filters. They even, of course, make a little thing to go around the cloth with the elastic, but these are cheap and easy and disposable. So now I'm gonna write the date on. I find green tea to be the best to flavor. You can actually do half green tea and half black tea, and it makes a full body tea. You don't have to use as many tea bags. In 7 days, this gallon should be ready, but you want to start tasting it around 5 days. The easy way to do that, take your top off. You will have a new layer formed of SCOBY across the top. Use a straw. You can go into the side, cap off the top. You have your little sampler here. You can taste it. And what you're tasting for is, you want it to be a little tart, but sweet. You want it to have a little effervescence on your tongue. Now, the first ferment is not going to be carbonated. Now, sometimes you'll get more than others, and it just depends. I love to use the glass containers with the plastic spouts, but I did want to show you, if you're going to use these, they're super easy to fill your bottles with and less messy. But sometimes you'll be filling your bottles and it will get really slow and begin to trickle, and I'll tell you why. When you're brewing your batch, a SCOBY will form around this. So what I usually do when I'm brewing and it's trickling, I'll start to loosen this. Of course, not enough where it starts flowing out the sides, but after you've gotten it down below the valve, you want to take your spout apart and clean that SCOBY off of there. If you're brewing more than a gallon, say you're brewing 2 gallons, it's gonna usually take 10 days. Now, with the 1 gallon, if you check that in 10 days, it's probably gonna taste like vinegar. Of course, it will have more health benefits, but you're going to want to be able to drink it and enjoy it. Don't be worried when you uncover the top of your kombucha and the color isn't uniform. It's whiter in this area and clear in that area and might have some brown on it. What kombucha does is it cleans. So if you have tea dust, and you will, you can also brew kombucha with loose tea and you'll have more tea dust in that, but even from the bags, you will have tea dust. So what the probiotics in this will do is collect all that tea dust in one spot, and usually it'll be dark brown or green, and it'll hang off of the side of your SCOBY. And I've had so many people text me or send me a picture, I think mine has molded. In the 4 years that I've been brewing kombucha, I have never seen mold. You can get used to the smell, kind of vinegary, You can smell the sweetness. When that one batch I had went bad, you could smell it and tell that it was bad. My coffee filter was all wet on the top where it had been pushed out, and there were fruit flies. I think they had gotten in it, and you knew it was bad. Kombucha does not go bad easy. I've not ever seen mold, but I'm not saying it never happens, because I've seen videos on YouTube that have mold. If there's mold on your SCOBY, it will be black. Your brew will smell off, and you'll know it. That mold will not come off of that SCOBY. If it's tea dust, you'll be able to pull it right off. You can rinse these SCOBYs off in warm water or more room temperature. You do not want to keep your brew close to a computer or any type of electronic, and you don't want it to brew in direct sunlight. You can leave it on the counter, or you can put it in the pantry. If you want to flavor your kombucha after your 7 or 10 days is up, you would put your kombucha in the bottle, flavor it with whatever you're going to flavor it with, and I do have another video on the best way to double ferment your kombucha. Cap it off. I always put the date on it, stick it in the pantry, and it's really best a month, 2 months, 3 months down the road. Oh, it just transforms, and it is so good. I have a hard time leaving mine alone that long, but that's why I'm brewing so much kombucha now, because I want to start being able to let mine age so good, and it will not expire. I've got some in there that are over 12 months old. I actually made those with coconut sugar, and I didn't really love the taste. So if you're double fermenting and you don't love the taste and you have 2 bottles, take that second bottle and stick it back somewhere and try it again in 6 to 8 months. I promise you it will be fantastic. It'll be clear, it'll be dry. Oh, it's so good. So try to do that if you can. I hope these tips helped, and really do not be nervous. It is super simple and very forgiving.